Alright, this is Chat UTD. Busy week as I thought it would be, and lots to talk about. We'll start with Fletcher speaking to the press for the first time since being announced as United's interim. Plenty to talk about regarding the longer term caretaker position. It seems that it's between Solskjaer and Carrick, although Fletcher's name is being mentioned and Nistelrooy's name's been mentioned. There's some talk of maybe Carrick and Solskjaer working together, or maybe even Fletcher, Carrick and Solskjaer working together, so we'll discuss that. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to talk about my preference in terms of profile of manager that we pick long term. Let's start with Darren Fletcher and his press conference yesterday. I thought he came across really well. He was asked about ex-players and their opinions and the scrutiny that goes with that. And he said it's part of playing for Man United, it's part of football, it's part of playing for a big club. He said he enjoys listening to those people. He used to enjoy listening to them when he was part of the same dressing room as them. I don't know if he said it out loud, but he certainly implied, these people are winners. These people have seen United in there and been part of their heyday. And it's part and parcel of football, which he's completely right. If you take a club like Real Madrid or Barcelona, if they were languishing where United have languished over the last few years, you bet your bottom dollar that the legends of their club and ex-players would have something to say about it. And I think Fletcher's got a foot in two different camps. He was around under Ferguson when we were extremely successful, when finishing second was subject to an absolute inquiry. It was seen as a disaster. He was surrounded by winners and leaders and standards. And he will very easily be able to call upon that in terms of the way he thinks Man United should operate. But he's also got a foot in the camp of the last few years, where he's been part and maybe guilty by association of a festering shit that United have become, and he's had many roles within that festering shit. But at his core, he's a United guy, and I'm sure would rather be inside the room trying to make a difference than outside of the room just wishing it was different. And this is an opportunity for him, and I think he came across very, very well. He was asked about the formation, and he said with his team he always plays 4 at the back because that's right for that age group, the under 18s. He said, of course we want to win. Every Manchester United team should try to win, but it's also about them developing as players and learning the game, and they believe it's best for them to learn with a back 4. I wouldn't be overly surprised if he calls people's bluff and plays with 3 at the back. Everybody, me included, probably thinks he should play 4 at the back. There's just a bit of, I don't know if there's a bit of mischief and devilment in him that would call people's bluff and go 3. So that's obviously something to look out for. I really loved what he said about Ferguson. He said that Ferguson was the first person he spoke to. He said, I don't make any big decisions without speaking to him, which really is quite touching, I think. Call me a big softie. I think it's almost like he's a father figure. Ferguson's a father figure to Fletcher, and I just think it's class. I think it's absolute class that he has that amount of respect for the man. And he's not shy or afraid to say it. As cliched as it might seem, he's not shy or afraid to say it. I'm an emotional football fan, and from being 8 years old until probably relatively recently, probably the last 5 or 6 years maybe, Man United made me feel things that nothing else in my life can make me feel. It's part of my identity, it's part of who I am. I felt great joy at supporting this football club. I felt pride, I felt gratitude, I felt connection, I felt protective, I felt tribal. And in the last 5 or 6 years, it's dissipated because it's unrecognisable. And I find that really sad. And every now and again, you get an echo of that feeling, and just an echo of what it felt like before. I've said many times before, United is a concept, and the concept of Man United will never die and will always be important to me. But what we've been left with is only echoes of that concept. And what I saw with Fletcher in the way that he came across, in especially what he said about Ferguson, and I don't care what people think about this and how soft and sentimental it sounds, for me that's an echo of something I recognise. It's an echo of the club that I love, and it makes me feel some feelings that I've not felt for a long time regarding United. And he ain't stepped foot in the dugout yet. He could be crap as a coach. We're not judging him, or I'm not judging him on his ability to make me feel something in a press conference. I'm just calling it as I see it. I really liked his press conference, and I thought he came across extremely well. He said, I'm just there to help the players. When they cross the white line, they've got to take responsibility. I think he's probably a good diplomatic choice in that he knows what's going on at the club at the moment. He's been around it. He's been a part of it. But as I say, he also has that one foot in the past where he knows what it means to play for Manchester United, and he knows all the complexity that goes with it from back when we were good, and also what it's like now. So I think he's probably well placed to be in that position. The game itself, I'd love to see us absolutely smash Burnley off the park today. For many reasons. One, I want to watch a great game of football and I want to watch my team do well, and it's important we get 3 points. But the honest appraisal of Fletcher so far is we're having to make decisions at the moment as a club. They're having to make decisions based on very little intel. A game of football, one game of football, which normally you don't make too many judgments on at all, you probably will make some judgments on that one game of football, because you have to be like that when you're in a situation like United are in. They're trying to pick a caretaker manager and they're using very limited intel. So if United are going to smash Burnley off the park tonight, then for me, I want Fletcher in the dugout on Sunday against Brighton, because I want to see if he can get some momentum, and if maybe perhaps his name comes to the top of the list because he's handling it and he's doing well, and the club, as I say, has some positive momentum under him, and he might be a genius. He's probably not, but he might be. It'd be just like these idiots to go and announce today, before he's even coached the team, that it's going to be Solskjaer or Carrick or both. And then tonight becomes null and void. We want the 3 points, but it doesn't really matter how we play. You just try and get the 3 points, because there's no longer term investment in Fletcher and what he's doing. So it's a big game tonight in general. We've dropped points against 4 of the bottom 5. Wolves, West Ham, Notts Forest and Leeds. And we nearly dropped points against Burnley last time we played them. You've got to win games like this. It won't be easy, I don't think. Burnley are a tough nut to crack, and we only scraped past them at Old Trafford. But do you remember when we played Cardiff in Solskjaer's first game as interim, and we won the luck within about 2 minutes, and we won 5-1, I think it was? I'd love an evening like that. Don't think it'll happen, because I think Burnley are quite a tough nut to crack, but it'd be great just to have a bit of joy. And bigger picture wise, I said it before Christmas, we had Newcastle, Wolves, Leeds and Burnley as the 4 games that were upcoming, and I said really there's an opportunity to get 9 points out of that. At the moment we've got 5, so the most we can get is 8, which is respectable, but 6 or 5 points from that is a poor return, and we need to win this game tonight. And I'd like to see, for Fletcher, because I'll be happy for him to see him do well, and be happy for him, obviously, because he's a United guy. I'd be happy just to see how he gets on, and hopefully we get a good result. In terms of Carrick or Solskjaer, because it does seem like he's going to be one of those two, I mentioned it yesterday, I would prefer Carrick for a few reasons. Solskjaer was here for 3 years. I've seen Solskjaer manage Man United. I've seen him do the interim thing and then take the job on full time. I've seen what his style of play is. He's had a chance, and we can all have our opinions on how well he did, but he's had his chance. He had 2.5 years at United. Carrick had 2 games, I think, 2 or 3 games, and did well as an interim before Ranić took over after Solskjaer was sacked. But Carrick had the class and the integrity to rule himself out of the caretaker role that time and say, I'm going to go and make my own way. And I think out of respect to Solskjaer, reading between the lines as well, which shows the class of the guy. But he went and made his way. He went to Middlesbrough. It was a good fit. I think for the size of club Middlesbrough and what they're trying to achieve, I think he did a good job. He seems, if you believe what you hear from people in the game, I think he was absolutely integral to what was happening at United when Solskjaer was there as the manager. I think, reading between the lines, Carrick and McKenna were the strategists, were the more strategic coaches in the team, and were probably putting on training sessions and looking at tactics and formations and ways to mastermind results and things. And basically Solskjaer, without wanting to downgrade him, was probably the front man and the man manager and the guy that could handle the press and like almost the Fergie factor, although of course nowhere near the same level. So I think Carrick's regarded as a really good coach. So I'd like to see what he can bring, and from this is far less important. This is more of a selfish thing, but also in terms of press conferences and things like that, and just vibe around the club. Ollie became a little bit of a caricature, I think, towards the end of his time at United. He just kept spouting the same happy clappy shit that people weren't swallowing anymore because it had reached the end of its time. It reached its expiry date. There wasn't much substance to what he was saying anymore, and I think, without again wanting to downgrade him, we've already heard what he has to say when he comes into a broken situation at United. I don't see it being any different or anything new. I'd like to see a new person have a chance to sort of have that role and listen to them and listen to their insights and post-match interviews, and because all that's part of it as a fan is you watching and unpicking, especially when you've got a channel that you do as well. So my preference would be Carrick. And I think, I said it in a video a few months ago, I said, if Amorim got sacked and Carrick took it for the rest of the season, it'd be interesting to see how he got on. And I think it would be interesting to see how he gets on. The talk of the two of them being together, I just don't know if that'll work, because who's the more, maybe they're so affable and so mature and pragmatic that they could just do it between them, almost like two managers. That rarely ever works. I think you need the manager and the coaches that are with the manager. Maybe Carrick's happy because he probably loves Ollie to say, I'm happy just to do my bit for the club and I'll be the coach and you be the manager. I think we've moved on from that, and my preference would be Carrick, although I think they'll give it Solskjaer. I'd be pleasantly surprised if they gave it Carrick, and I'd like to see how that pans out. It's something new. This is where we're at as a club, isn't it? Jesus. At least it's something new. It's not exactly exciting, is it? But moving forward though, and I've been thinking a lot about this, the next longer term appointment, I think we have to go left field, and I'm going to explain what I mean. And I'm going to talk a little bit about England. Don't worry, I'm not going to recommend that Gareth Southgate becomes United's manager before people start switching off. I'm not going to do that. But I want to just look at England and then bring it back to United as to what I think maybe we might need to do next, given the ownership that we've got. 2016, 2017, England was a mess. United fans don't like England anyway, but I grew up loving England as a kid. I supported England, I supported United, but I was just not interested at all. Completely lost any allegiance to them. Couldn't identify with it. There was players ducking out of international call-ups left, right and centre. No one seemed to want to be there. It was rubbish. There was no identity to it. It was just awful. And they had the likes of, obviously they tried the Capello thing. Roy Hodgson was there. Sam Allardyce became the manager. You're like, what are you doing? And then by fluke, Sam Allardyce left because he was up to no good. So they put Gareth Southgate in as an interim. And they stumbled across a guy who was perfect for them. If you had your choice of any manager in the world, would Gareth Southgate be the best one? No way. But for England, at that moment in time, with where we were as a nation in football, he was absolutely perfect. He's a typical grey suit, he's a typical FA man, but he's a dyed-in-the-wool patriotic guy as well, who knows what it means to play for England, who knows what it means to face adversity with England, who knows what it means to be ridiculed, who knows what it means with the media on you all the time because that missed penalty in Euro 96, to be around camps because he was at numerous different tournaments, to be a squad player, to be one of the main players, to be a leader, to be a peripheral figure. He knew all of that about it through his playing career, but also he'd been the under-21 manager, an FA guy, perfect for England. And what they discovered was, when he came in, that he was able to, in a very short period of time, because he understood the environment so well, he was able to cultivate something that no other manager had done for a long, long time. And people can talk about missed opportunities and people can talk about his style of play. This isn't what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that. But Sam Allardyce and Roy Hodgson and any other manager that England could have picked was not getting England to the semi-final of the World Cup and the final of the Euros twice. No chance. They're not getting the likes of Jude Bellingham to come and be desperate to come and play for their country. It wouldn't happen, regardless of the talent that was there at their disposal. So I don't think we should appoint Gareth Southgate. But what I'm saying is that for me has left a clue, and you can apply it, in my opinion, to United. So here we go. Man United's owners are dog shit. The environment is dog shit. And we keep being linked to, and at times appointing, builders of things. So Ten Hag to a point built something at Ajax. Amorim, without doubt, at Sporting Lisbon, built something at Sporting Lisbon. We're being linked to Glasner, who built something at Frankfurt, and to some degree has built something at Crystal Palace. Iraola at Bournemouth, who's building something at Bournemouth. Silva at Fulham, who's building something at Fulham. These types of characters that are at a club and within that environment are able to build something really, really special. Those types of managers are no good to Man United because we don't have an environment that befits someone who's going to come in and build. And when I say environment, I do mean the owners and I do mean the co-owners or the minority owners, but I also mean the media, the ex-players, the fans, fan channels. The whole package around Manchester United it doesn't match someone coming in and building something. And I think the other thing is we've got an identity crisis. We don't have a clear way. So when a manager comes in, as I said the other day, there's a disparity there thinking of Sir Alex Ferguson and that Man United. Now, that's hard to build when you're thinking like that because you're nowhere near that. People don't have, I suppose, there's not that much patience for you to be able to get to that point, and it's also going to take a lot of money to get to that point. It's also going to take a lot of leadership and direction to get to that point. So that's one big problem. But I don't think the other problem is, I don't think we're either here nor there. I don't think we're a club that has an identity that's rooted in what we used to do and we want to do that again. And I don't think we've got a new identity that we can shoot for either. We haven't got enough financial flexibility to give managers what they need, which has been proven with Ruben Amorim. And the whole package doesn't work when you bring a builder in from the outside. So I'm going to use Carrick as an example. If Carrick came into United now, and Carrick, Fletcher, Solskjaer, I probably wouldn't say Solskjaer as much because we know what he can do longer term. Let's say Carrick or Fletcher comes into United now, and the team finishes 5th, and let's say wins the FA Cup. They're getting the job. There's no doubt about it if that happens. Would Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool appoint Michael Carrick or Darren Fletcher as their manager? No. But United is a different beast. And just like Southgate understood England and all the complexity that went with it, I think unique to Manchester United, maybe Darren Fletcher, maybe Michael Carrick, maybe they would understand exactly what's needed because they understand the club, they understand what it used to be like, they understand what it's like now, they understand maybe where they would like it to go, and maybe in the absence of any clear direction and leadership, perhaps they could be that leadership in terms of striving to take the club in a direction. Because as I said the other day, Ineos and their employees are stabbing around in the dark hoping to stumble across someone. So if you end up looking like you could be that guy, they'll give you the keys to the kingdom. They didn't with Amrim because he wasn't doing very well. But if it's a guy that's doing well, they're more than happy to absolve themselves of responsibility because they haven't got a clue where they're going. So Carrick could come in and we finish 9th or 10th. Obviously, if that's the case, don't give him the job. So it's massively hypothetical, but if one of those United type people come in and get us top 6, maybe wins the FA Cup, or maybe just has a good run in the FA Cup and we finish top 6, and there's a style of football and it's attractive to watch, and there's a feeling around the club which is, as I say, maybe echoes of the way it used to feel, then I think you've got a decision to make. Because you bring in De Zerbi, who's one of the names being mentioned, he's a good coach. Amrim's a good coach. Ten Hag's a good coach. I don't think he'll do very well because you're not going to be able to give him the things that he needs. And I don't think he probably, until you get your foot in the door, understand just how big Man United is and just how complex Man United is. If we were going to go, I'll tell you what I actually want to happen. And I'm darting around a bit, but what I want to happen is the Glazers and Ineos leave this football club. If the Glazers and Ineos left this football club and we got proper owners with proper intent, your pool of managers opens up massively. You can go and get the best, as in Luis Enrique. You could go and get a builder, like a Glasner, or like an Iraola from Bournemouth. You could go and get someone who's probably somewhere in the middle of a De Zerbi or a Tuchel or someone like that. You can go and do all of that because you're going to be able to support them and you'll have a very clear direction of what you're doing and they're likely to succeed. That's my preference, but that's not going to happen. So our owners are the Glazers and Ineos. And I said it under Ten Hag. Under a different structure, he could have been really good at United. Under a different structure, Ruben Amorim could have been really good at United. We've not got a different structure. They're the owners of this football club. So I want to qualify that really clearly, because what I'm not saying is let's just go for shits and giggles and vibes and bring an ex-player in because they'll understand and everything's going to be hunky-dory again. Because if we had proper owners, I wouldn't for a second be suggesting we should do that. But we haven't got proper owners. So you need someone who can deal with the club as is. And I think the best shout we've got, in the absence of any mark of what Manchester United stands for and should be about, I think the best chance you've got is bringing someone in who knows the club. Especially if, as an interim, they do a good job. And I know people will probably say, we tried this with Ollie. Yeah, we finished in the Champions League 2 years in a row. What's happened since he's gone? Ollie Solskjaer wasn't good enough to manage Man United, in my opinion. He's got the best records of anyone since Ferguson. And he didn't get loads and loads more money than anyone else. We need someone who understands the fabric of this football club, because no other fucker does within the club. So I think it's quite intriguing. This is probably one of my reasons for wanting Carrick, is I think if Carrick came in and did well, I'd be an advocate for him to get the job. Whereas if Solskjaer comes in and does well, I've seen it before. I know how that goes with Solskjaer. Carrick's a different manager. He's a different character. He probably thinks of the game slightly differently. So, you know what? People talk about Pep Guardiola. Pep Guardiola managed, I think, Barcelona's B team and then became their manager. Mikel Arteta, who's probably going to win the Premier League this season with Arsenal, hadn't managed anybody before he went in and managed Arsenal. So it's not necessarily the case that you always need to be in management someone who's been somewhere else and done really well. You need to be able to do well in the environment you're in and know that environment and be able to take that and be able to cultivate that environment. And as I said, I'd use Arteta and I'd use Guardiola as those two examples. I'm aware of what you might call the hypocrisy, or contradiction is a better word, of what I've been saying in the last few days. United need top operators all over the club. They do. United need a better director of football. United need a better CEO. United need better owners. I do think, though, with a manager, it's slightly different. Your manager has to fit with the environment that's there. I wish the environment was different, but it's not. So who would be the best in this environment? For me, it would be, if one exists, someone who understands Man United. Fletcher could come in and be absolutely shit. Carrick could come in and be absolutely shit. Van Nistelrooy could come in and be absolutely shit. If that's the case, null and void. What I'm saying is if they do well, or well enough, then I think that's a conversation to have. Because you can talk, as I said before, I started the comment and didn't really finish it. You could talk about De Zerbi, you could talk about Tuchel, you could talk about all these different managers. Coming into this mess, they won't be the same manager that they were anyway. Of those types of characters, and I said when Ten Hag got sacked, I wouldn't go near him, but I'd go Tuchel. The reason being, he's the type of guy that he doesn't really build stuff. He just comes in, almost a bit like Mourinho, seems to be able to get results quite quickly, and then it blows up and he disappears again. Whoever is going to come in is going to disappear again anyway, aren't they? As has been proved. So it might as well win a few trophies along the way. He wouldn't be my ideal choice, generally speaking. But again, if we were going to go for a more typical choice, let's say, who's not got any connection to United, it'd be him. Because I think he'd come in and do all right for a bit, and then it'd go tits up. But Amrin didn't even do all right for a bit, did he? Builders of stuff, there's no point. No point. No point in Glasner. No point in Areola. No point in Marco Silva. No point. Won't work under this structure. Need new owners, as I said before, but that's not going to happen. So, covered loads of stuff again today. Hopefully, it all makes sense. Welcome any comments, and please like, subscribe, all that schnizzle, because I want to get to that 50 mark so I can go live. And also, if you enjoy it, it would be good if you could do that. All the best. Glazers out.